Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you a video today to ask and answer a really interesting question in my eyes, and that is, what soccer cleat slash football boot would you like to see re-released or brought back at some point in time? For those of you guys that follow sneakers in general, you're just a shoe enthusiast, you know that re-releasing basketball shoes, running shoes, old lifestyle classics is a very common thing amongst any brand that's been around for any significant amount of time. You can go to the store right now and buy an older basketball shoe that Nike or Adidas or whatever brand it may be has remade. It's very common and very popular. With that being said, how come amongst soccer cleats and football boots we don't get the same thing? Yes, the Copa Mundial is around. Yes, the older Puma King is around. You can get Mizuno Morelias. Those are a couple that come to mind as shoes that kind of have been around for a little bit while and can be considered classics that are available today. But everything else never has seen a re-release. And there are so many great models that we've had over the last 20, 25, 30 years that I would love to see re-released at some point in time. I just think it would be a really cool thing. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 shoes that for me personally, I would love to see re-released at some point in time. But feel free to share your picks down below in the comment section. I'm actually really curious to see what your answers are. Everyone's going to have their own opinion with this kind of thing. I just think it would be really exciting if at some point in time we got a re-release of a shoe that came out years ago in its original form, whether it's a limited edition thing, whatever it may be. We have seen Puma do this fairly recently with the Puma V106. I thought that was very cool, but I would love to see a lot more of this, and these are kind of my picks of what 3 shoes I would like to see re-released. The first shoe that I would love to see brought back probably isn't on most people's wish list, but for me this is probably the first high-end shoe that I was super excited about. It was the first shoe that I knew when it was unveiled. I was waiting for it to come out, and I was lucky enough to actually get them the first day that they were available. And I was so pumped about that at the time. I had them in this exact colorway, the yellow, which was the launch colorway. And I thought they were the coolest shoes ever. I still think this is one of the coolest shoes ever. I really like the look of it. The yellow, while I'm not crazy about bright colors now, I still think this is really cool, and I'd be happy to wear these even with the bright yellow color. I just like the general look of the shoe. The T90 logo with this kind of target in the middle, basically right where you would strike the ball. It's just a striking element that I think makes so much sense. If you're gonna make a shoe around striking the ball with a big rubber element, this to me just looks like, I think even if you didn't know anything about soccer, you'd look at this shoe and say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Hit the ball right there. And that's why I really like this shoe. It almost acted as somewhat of a guide when striking the ball. A very nice reminder where hit the ball right there, and that's how you know you hit it pretty clean. And it's a shoe that was very comfortable as well. They fit pretty nicely. The off-center lacing system, while it's not something that I'm personally too crazy about, I didn't mind it on this particular shoe just because it actually wrapped over the top of your foot pretty cleanly. I really like this particular synthetic as well, which we really never saw again from Nike. There was a kangaroo leather option of this particular shoe available as well. I never actually got to try those out. I wish I did, but I can't imagine it was actually too much different considering that the majority of the shoe is made up by this rubberized element, which is pretty much what you feel when you're actually wearing them. It's got an external heel counter, which I thought was really cool. This is one of the very last soccer models from Nike to feature their Zoom Air. So basically under the insole in the heel, for those that don't know what Zoom Air is, they still use it in basketball and running and pretty much every other footwear category. It's a little airbag that sits directly under the insole and provides a little bit of extra heel cushioning, which I think that's something that, again, probably should make a comeback as well on Nike models in general. It has these little bumps on the sides of the ankle in the liner, which I thought was really cool. That just felt nice and comfortable. And I like this particular stud pattern as well. Kind of what we have right now from the current Tiempo lineup, which is a shoe that I'm also a big fan of, but nothing too kind of crazy. Conical studs in the front, bladed studs in the heel, and this really cool kind of foot bone pattern underneath that has nothing to do with performance, but like I said, I just think this is a really cool looking shoe, and I would be really, really excited if Nike did any kind of re-release or release any kind of model like this again. Obviously, the T90 line was replaced by the Hypervenom line, which ultimately was something unique that we hadn't seen before, and the Hypervenoms are very, very good shoes, but for me, I was a really big fan of the T90s. I was upset to see that they were killing the line, but I understand why they did it. They just weren't selling all that well, and I think something like the Hypervenom is just going to be more popular based on what kids and what people in general are looking to buy nowadays. So Nike T90 Laser 1, for me, one of those shoes that I would love to see brought back one day. The next shoe that I would love to see brought back, and I think a lot of you guys will agree with me down below in the comment section, especially if you're a fan of the Predator line, is the Adidas Predator Mania that originally came out in 2002. This is widely regarded amongst Predator fans as the best Adidas Predator ever made. Obviously, a far stretch different in comparison to what the later Predator models would evolve into with the Lethal Zones concept being introduced. But this is a shoe that not only do I think looks really cool, it was just a great shoe to wear in general. I was lucky enough to have a pair of these. It was actually my very first high-end soccer shoe. I ended up getting a pair of Predator Manias. It was the firm ground variation, the white, black, and red colorway. So white upper, had the black stripes and little red details and the heel counter and stuff like that. But really, really good looking shoe in pretty much every colorway that they released. And I got them, it was a shoe that was on sale. I think at the time the Predator Pulse was already out and there was plenty of Predator Manias on sale lying around. And like I said, it was the first high-end shoe that I ever had. The pair that I had, I want to say they were a 7.5 US. I wish I hung on to them. I don't have them anymore, unfortunately. But like I said, the first high-end shoe I ever had. And I think really the one shoe that showed me how good a soccer shoe could actually be, which is partially why I do what I do today. It's something that I was really intrigued with, and it's kind of what made me a little bit of an enthusiast when it comes to just soccer equipment and how one shoe can feel so much different from another. But the Predator Mania, really, really good shoe, super high quality kangaroo leather, the big fold over flap tongue with the elastic strap, which was kind of a signature of the Predator line for a very, very long time. You have the rubberized striking element that's, again, positioned in such a way that just makes a lot of sense, similar to the Nike T90 Laser 1 that I talked about. Really cool stitching patterns. You can see you have the Adidas branding right here stitched on the medial side of the shoe. Big, huge heel counter, the Adidas stripes going down the back of the heel. And then, of course, this really cool design. I always thought the split outsole on the Predator Mania was just something that was so cool, and I love how the rubberized stripes continued into the bottom of the shoe and then flowed into the heel. I always thought that was a really cool design element. The firm ground stud pattern, this stud pattern in general is something that I think a lot of people miss from the Adidas brand. They kind of just ditched it altogether all of a sudden. And this is a soft ground pair, obviously, in a soft ground stud variation that just doesn't look like anything else available anymore. Full metal bladed studs, which just looks absolutely wicked. I would love to actually try these out on soft ground to see how it would actually be, because it looks so mean. But just a really, really good shoe. Again, widely regarded as the best Adidas Predator of all time for good reason. Even when I put these on now, they're super comfortable. They fit really nicely. And I think it's really easy to see why so many people love and miss the Adidas Predator Mania. So for me, the second shoe that I would love to see brought back one day in its original form, the Adidas Predator Mania. The final shoe that I would love to see brought back one day is the Nike T90 Laser 2. Now this is a shoe that I was a big fan of, mainly because I wore it a lot back when it was a new release. Obviously, because I like the T90 Laser 1 so much, I was really, really excited about the T90 Laser 2, and I was lucky enough, again, to have them pretty much right at the launch. I actually had the kangaroo leather version of the shoe first, which is kind of what I have right here. This is a soft ground model. I had them in firm ground, and it was the launch colorway, which was white with a red swoosh, and the actual striking element was like this really cool silver color. Really good looking shoes, and kind of an unusual shoe. Out of all the T90 models, this is probably the one that's the most obscure. But again, I think you can look at something like this and automatically see what the justification was for the overall design. It has a very, very large rubberized striking element. The kangaroo leather model obviously featured kangaroo leather kind of through the forefoot. You have it a little bit here on the medial side, but you don't really feel it when you're wearing the shoe just because of how much rubber there is. But obviously on the lateral side of the shoe, it is made fully from kangaroo leather, whereas on the synthetic variation, which there was 2 models of, this was the initial synthetic that they introduced, and that does have the rubberized striking element on both sides, as you guys can see. This one has this really cool kind of texturing to it, whereas the later colorways, or I believe some of the colorways, it was kind of like a special edition thing, had this perforated synthetic material that actually was a little bit thicker, and I personally preferred over the original synthetic. I had a pair of these as well in the yellow and black colorway, which was also a really, really cool looking shoe. This, of course, is the firm ground variation, so you can see what that looks like. But what was really interesting about this shoe was, again, I like the fact that it had this big rubberized striking element. It just made a lot of sense and felt really good when striking the ball. It was a nice kind of reminder of what specific spot you needed to hit the ball with to kind of have a good clean strike. If you hit it right here, you'd have a good clean drive. If you hit it right here, obviously you'd hit an outside bend. And if you hit the ball right here cleanly, you'd have an inside bend. So really, really cool concept from Nike. The only aspect of this shoe that I'm not too crazy about is the actual lacing system. Again, it laces up the sides of both of the elements here. So it's not the best shoe if you like your shoes to fit really, really tight. It does obviously offer good lockdown once you get the proper fit and once you pull the laces tight, but it doesn't really squeeze your foot, which a lot of people do like when you actually tie your laces. But it's a shoe that fit me quite well. I never really had any issues with it. I actually quite like this stud pattern as well. This is a very aggressive bladed stud pattern that we don't really have anything like this from Nike anymore, which is a bit of a shame. Again, the T90 line did get discontinued. Obviously, I was a big fan of it. I think I could really say that I would bring back any of the T90 models, but the Laser 1 and 2 probably would be my favorites in comparison to all previous kind of pre-Laser T90 models. And then the Laser 3 and 4, I thought those were good shoes as well. But for me, the best Laser models Nike ever put out were the Laser 1s and 2s. And like I said, these are some of the shoes that I would love to see re-released one day from Nike, if that ever becomes a thing. All right, guys, that is it for my video on what shoes I would like to see re-released at some point in time. I limited myself to 3, mainly because I could have made a list of 20 shoes that I really, really liked that I would love to see come back, but 3 kind of kept things nice and simple. But again, feel free to leave your opinions on what you'd like to see make a return down below in the comment section. If you have any comments on my picks, leave those down below as well. Any questions, anything to say regarding this particular topic, leave it down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.